Hey everybody, John here from the esports department, ready to go over the Group B 3 games in 1 day slate. Yesterday didn't go so well for me. Team Liquid being the highest scoring team was not something that my lineups were based around at all. Most of my lineups were heavier on Sunning. I thought Sunning would beat G2 at the end of the day, but I did not predict the Team Liquid beating Sunning in the middle of the day to kind of throw a wrench in that plan. So I don't think playing like 4 Team Liquid yesterday was a bad idea. I think it was fine. Even if they had just beaten, they got an upset win against G2 and beat Machi or something like that, they were live to be the highest scoring team on the slate, I think. So I wasn't like mad that some terrible set of lineups won or anything. I thought that was a reasonably decent way to set your lineups. It was going to give you low ownership. I tried to get low ownership a different way by playing some kind of weird combinations of 4-2-1s and stuff like that, mostly heavier Sunning, some heavier G2. But that said, that slate, I think the strategies that worked well on that slate might not be as good on this slate. You can see on this slate the moneyline favorites are significantly heavier than the last slate. Damwon regularly cracking in at minus 800, minus 1400. JDG cracking in at minus 800, minus 500. And even Talon against Rogue is a minus 220. So you're not looking at any teams that are as close as Team Liquid was yesterday in theory. If you were hoping for that, I think Rogue would be the team that you'd be putting your money on. Rogue finding an upset against Damwon or an upset against JDG. For me, I think probably this slate ends up a little chalkier than last slate even. There's a lot of possible ways that these games can go, I suppose, but JDG and Damwon really, I think, are pretty heavy favorites to come out of this group, both going 2-1 or 3-0 after today. Talon has looked very bad since they got their original players back. The style just doesn't fit what's going on right now. I think they were better off with the subs that they were playing, which shout out to Gelati and calling that before the tournament even started, that was a pretty big upgrade for them. They haven't looked nearly as good since that changed. And then Rogue has battled so far in this tournament, and I think they'll at least continue to not get run over in general, but I don't see them picking up wins on this day, which really limits the lineups you can play. If you're going to play an underdog lineup, I think Rogue is the one that makes the most sense. I could definitely see Rogue, gutting out an underdog victory against JDG or Damwon, but I don't think it's anywhere near the most likely result. So I wrote down here a bunch of different possible ways to build. These videos are a little bit different than some of my other videos because these slates are a little bit different than the other slates. And so I don't really... going through the individual game stats and stuff doesn't make as much of a difference given that they're going to play 3 different sets. And they're all playing each other, so it's not like you can target the team who's going to have the best opponents because they're all playing each other. So I think the best way to do it is to focus mostly on roster constructions. So I've written down a bunch of different possible ways that you can play lineups. Obviously, if you're going to play Talon or Rogue, you can fit the lineups however you want. So this is just a list of ways that you can play Damwon Gaming and JDG together. So Canyon Captain 3 ways. That means there's 3 different builds that are Canyon Captain with 4 Damwon Gaming players. As long as you're playing Zoom, then you can fit this any way. The discrepancy in the top lane is larger than the discrepancy in the other lanes as far as pricing. So Zoom helps you get some extra lineups. You're going to see him mentioned a lot in these builds because he affects what can fit and what can't fit. So if you play Zoom, you can play Canyon Captain with 4 Damwon Gaming in any of the other 3 versions. If you play Kanavi Captain, you can play Kanavi Captain with 4 Damwon Gaming or Kanavi Captain with 4 JDG any way you like. So those are the kind of chalk builds, I think. The Jungle Captains, any way you like to build them, are probably the chalkiest build. If you wanted to play Jungle Captain but you wanted to get weird with it, you could try Canyon Captain with 4 JDG or Kanavi Captain with 4 Damwon. It wouldn't be that hard for one of these junglers to have one bad, Nidalee game where they just end up going like 0-3-4 or something like that, and the team carries them, and then the other jungler could end up the higher scoring player even if their team ends up the higher scoring team. So that's a way to kind of move those around if you're looking for some lower ownership. You can play Loken Captain with 4 JDG, I believe, with Rogue or Paris Saint-Germain Talon Team. You can play Yagao Captain with Rogue or Paris Saint-Germain Talon Team. You can play Showmaker Captains as long as you have Zoom with either team, either Rogue or PSG Talon. You can play Showmaker Captain with Talon Team if you don't play Zoom. So there's 3 versions of this build, the non-Zoom versions. You can play Yagao Captain with Zoom and Damwon Gaming, and either of these 2 teams, either Rogue or Paris Saint-Germain. You can play Yagao without Zoom with Damwon Gaming, but it only goes with Talon Team. You can play Loken Captain with Talon Team, or you can play Ghost Captain with Zoom and Talon Team. So these are just some various different builds, some kinds of things you might want to look at. I'm kind of interested in what will end up being the correct, the correct setup on this slate. If it's going to end up being just like stack the favorites, or if throwing an underdog in there will be good. The thing about these slates that people forget sometimes is Rogue or Talon is going to win a game. Like Rogue is playing against Talon right here. So it's not like both of those teams, just because they're such big underdogs, it's not like they're both going to go 0-3, because that just can't happen. And so at the very least, one of them is going to get a game win against the other one. And when JDG plays Damwon, one of them is going to lose. So like the best result, like if you really think the favorites are huge favorites, it's still not that big of a gap. It just means that one of these 2 is going to go 2-1, and one of these 2 is going to go 1-2. What's the difference between a player that wins 2 games versus a player that wins 1? I mean, it depends on how the game scripts play out. If Rogue versus Talon is a 27-kill game, then whichever team wins that game might end up being higher scoring than the loser of JDG and Damwon. So it's not like any sort of guarantee that you've got to slam in on JDG and Damwon, because at least Rogue or Talon is going to win a game, and if they take another game anywhere else on the day, that automatically upsets the apple cart. It's the same thing that happened with Team Liquid yesterday. Just took that one upset against Suning, and then all of a sudden now we got 3 teams going 2-1 on the day, and that just threw everything into chaos, with Team Liquid being the highest scoring team on the day. So it's just some various different kinds of builds here that I would recommend looking into. There are some other things you can do as well. There's top captains that are playable for these 2 teams. Obviously, like I said, if you're playing them with Rogue or Talon, then you can jam in any captain setup that you want, and it's going to fit well. So there's a lot of different types of builds. More, I would say, than on a typical 2-game slate, actually. I think there's more different kinds of weird options you can mess with here that are decent versus a normal 2-game slate. So I'm still kind of on the train of thought that these slates are actually better than running 3 2-game slates. I think this is a more interesting format. So I talked about this yesterday, but just in case anyone missed yesterday's video, the way that you must approach these slates is to decide what you think is going to happen, and then go get the results that you're looking for, and find and create projections for yourself. So I'm going to work as if all of the favorites win every game. That's just what I'm going to do for these videos, I think. So Damwon wins, then JDG beats Rogue, then Damwon beats Rogue, then JDG beats Talon, then Rogue beats Talon, and then Damwon beats JDG in the final game of the day. And in order to create my own projections, I go through the esports department projections in a win and a loss, which I have high levels of faith in. And then I create this little table. So Hanabi, as an example, let me find him real quick. In PSG versus Damwon, this is projection in a loss, 13. So I go up here, throw that 13 in there for Hanabi. And then I think in their next matchup against JDG, I think they're going to lose. So I'm going to get that 10.8 and throw that up here. And then when they play against Rogue, I think they're going to lose as well. Oh, it's kind of cutting off. I didn't even realize. I'll have to make sure. Oh, it goes to page 2. So 10.7 when they lose to Rogue. There's that. Add them together. There's my projection on the day for Hanabi. But then for a team like Rogue, for instance, I think they're going to beat Paris Saint-Germain Talon and lose the other 2. So I go through the tables, find their other 2 matchups, get the projections in a loss, go to their matchup against PSG Talon, get their projection in a win, come up with an overall projection for the players. And I do that for all 4 of the teams. Here's the little table that I created. Here's the projections that I come up with if all the moneyline favorites win every game. This is the projections that end up coming up. And then I've entered those into the optimizer for you just for the sake of this video, just so that we can have a look. And then boom, like I said yesterday, it's easy from there. When you optimize, it gives you 4 Damwon Gaming with Zoom, Yagao, and Rogue Team. That makes sense to me. If Rogue wins their matchup against PSG Talon, which we're expecting, then their team score is not going to be that different. So getting a big upgrade at the captain role can very often be worth making that trade, trade-off and playing the team that's going to only go 1 and 2 there. But let's do the same thing we did yesterday. I'm going to make sure the min salary cap is very small so we can get whatever we like. And let's generate 150 lineups here. And just have a look at some of the lineups that it creates for us. See what it thinks the highest value lineups are. And this is great. Like I said, it's actually easier than normal because you don't have to eliminate teams back and forth. You can literally just click optimize, and as long as your projections are in there correctly, you're already accounting for all the wins and losses that the teams will do. Makes it very easy to just generate as many lineups as you can and see what comes out as some of the highest value lineups. I'm going to let it finish real quick, and then we'll go through some of the various options that it likes. You can see, kind of like yesterday, there's a general theme already that 4 of the top 5 lineups are JDG and Damwon specific lineups, just Canyon Captain, 4 Damwon, 3 JDG. But the top lineup by 4 full points is the Showmaker Captain with Rogue Team. So yesterday we saw the same thing, except it was kind of reversed. It was the Wonder Captain 4G2 was the highest projected lineup, but then immediately it went into a bunch of 3-teamers after that. And so you can kind of, there's interesting stuff to be done here. There's different ways to build this. It's not like every lineup of this kind is going to be first and then every lineup of that kind is going to be next. So once you finish with these, you get the Nuguri Captains in there. I do like those. The Yagao Captain with 4 Damwon showing up in there with Rogue Team. More Nuguri Captains. Canyon Captains again. Different versions of the Canyon Captain. Showmaker Captains. A different version of Showmaker Captain drops all the way down to 598, where our highest projection was 612. So you get like a 15-point difference in different versions of the Showmaker Captain there. More of the Nuguri Captains showing up down in like the 15 range as far as playability. Showmaker Captain with Talon, it drops your points down a little bit there because you're playing what it considers to be a worse team. But even those are coming in ahead of like the Zoom 4 Damwon with Loken and JDG version there. So you can see lots of different options. If you generate 150, like literally you can just scroll down, dude. Here's the 150th best lineup it came up with. It's Showmaker with Tank, Zoom, Kanavi, Ghost, Barrel, and Damwon. So, I mean, this is an option, though. There's no reason why this lineup couldn't end up winning, especially if Talon beats Rogue. Then now that lineup's looking great. So I think this is great for MME. I think it's a great slate to play like a 20 max, like a $3 20 max type tournament, and get some of these cool little variations in there. Yeah, I'm a fan of these slates, honestly. I think they're pretty decent. I don't have too much else to say on these because it's just a different format. I know the videos are a little shorter, but it's just a different format of tournament that has a little bit less to talk about, I think, than some of the other ones. But maybe I'll try to think of something new to do tomorrow so the video is a little bit longer with a little bit more information, a little bit more density in there. But yeah, I think these are good slates, and I think they're interesting. I think if you're the kind of person who likes trying to solve puzzles, these are better slates than 2 gamers. I think they create a lot more interesting scenarios, and you get to tweak it around really easily by going, you know what, I think PSG Talon wins that last game of the day. Let me modify my projections. Now you're working with a projection set that nobody else is working with, or at least not that many other people are working with. If you think a couple games go different ways, or if you just want to plan for a situation that you think is uncommon, because, I mean, winning GPPs often can rely on planning for situations that aren't that common. Planning for situations that aren't that common, you can come up with some good lineups, I'm sure. I'm sure there's some sweet rogue builds in here that will be very low owned on the big slate today. So, yeah, give it a shot, man. I think there's some interesting stuff to be done. And shout out to Roberts and Dutes for keeping the projections going, because the projections are just fire, dude. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the projections. So, awesome. Pretty interesting slate. Let me know how you guys do. Let me know what you guys come up with. And let's get some bread tonight. What do you say? I'll talk to you guys later.